Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're playing some Maisha focused PortalCraft deck. So this one typically is focusing around, of course, Maisha as your primary big finisher, although you've also got Bahamut, which is a really nice support card for a deck like this. Silver Beast as just a more generic kind of support to get you to that later game, and really overall just using those as really big support pieces, generating some decent draw and some evo effects while also taking advantage of course, things like Chosen Awakening from Shin, which does a nice little job. Granblue Roaring Thunder, which I didn't find myself using much, but definitely not a bad card for this variation of deck. And overall, just a really interesting one. It was very different from what I've seen a lot of PortalCraft players playing, and I thought, why not give it a fair go? So we're going to get right into this and check it out. So our first game, we are playing against a Rune. I believe both their games are against Rune actually for this video. Rune is definitely one of the better matchups for this deck, since it is of course, a slower variant. Since you do have to wait till turn 10. Luckily, Rune is very popular on ladder at the moment, which does make it one of the easier matches to find, so definitely works in your favor a little bit. Although the games can get pretty down to the wire, so you do have to be a little careful. You don't want to get caught off guard. So I usually aim for a pretty decent turn 2, and a Mecha Wing definitely fills that role. Turn 3 looks a little rougher though, so to go for a Marionette Lad, just throw it down. I wasn't really worried about getting his effect off, I just needed something to stick to the board in the early game that could help at least secure some of that early game. It's another reason why I went for this wider board as well. Since expecting Rune to be able to flood reasonably quickly, I didn't want to leave any chance for them to kind of go super wide on me. And they made a fairly decent play. They're going to be able to remove at least those couple of things there pretty easily. Make that pretty much everything, so that's a little disappointing. And Puppet Troop Master, definitely a good one. I actually really enjoy using that card. It seems to do a pretty good job for this deck, although I did use it a little preemptively. I probably should have held off using it until a little bit more of the mid game, where I probably already had a Maisha. So maybe turn 6 or 7 would have been better, where I had a better chance of getting the Maisha, because now I've flooded the deck with, of course, puppets. This is where I did put myself in a little bit of a rough situation, but this was one of the first games I played with this deck, so I was still getting used to what order of play I wanted to do certain things. So this was a rough one. I wanted to remove that no matter what. Had to find a way to do it. And unfortunately, the best thing I come up with was, of course, what you just saw, so definitely didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. Conjure Golem, that's pretty okay. We can deal with that with a couple of puppets. Maybe we can throw a couple of Puppet Troop Masters down. That does give us a couple more puppets to work with as well. So at least it gives us some decent removal. I'm able to remove things pretty well, which I'm always happy about. Being able to get those clears is usually important. We also got the Mecha Gun now, which does mean we can get our golems out. It's one of the main reasons that's ran in this deck is once you get those golems or something in your deck, you can really take advantage of pulling them. It also works really well, of course, with Bahamut, so definitely taking advantage of that helps. So this is a little bit more of a rough one to get rid of. I couldn't really think of a good way to get rid of it. So the best option was pretty much exactly what you're seeing, to use a couple of things to remove it fairly. I also need to hold on to evos as much as possible, since I do want that Maisha win. At the moment, I feel like that is the only way we are going to be able to win, is to pull a Maisha and take full advantage of its evo. Something like Truth, though, definitely ruining my fun. At least we are going to be able to take that out without too much hassle. And really just try to set ourselves up long term. So Verdict Ritual, Tetra, all good plays, but not really enough yet. A lot of people also get caught off guard by this deck quite a bit. I've noticed that if you play it like this, most people go, what are they playing? What are they aiming for? What's their win condition? Usually they don't notice till it's too late that the Maisha is kind of the big hitting win condition. Of course, by now, a lot of people might notice that, and of course, if you're watching this video, you know that, so you know what to expect if you start seeing cards like this being played out. But when I was playing this deck, it was very easy to catch some players off guard. Although it was a bit of a risk here with stuff like Truth Adjudication. I needed really good RNG to win this game. So I managed to get the hit. Unfortunately, I missed the ping. So I did need a fair bit of luck now. We've got one chance at winning this, and it's not looking good. We need a single puppet from our deck off the Maisha pool. That is literally the win condition now. Anything else and we are screwed. Luckily though, the odds were definitely in our favor to pull a puppet from our deck, as you can see, because we loaded our deck with 30 odd puppets, making over half our deck of puppets. So I was definitely, you know, 50-50 on the pull. I just needed to pull one, managed to get it. 28 damage, 2 face, 4 lethal. Could not be happier with that. And so our next game is actually against Portal. I thought it was against Rune. I've played a lot of Rune games lately. Really did throw me through a loop, honestly. But Portal is going to be the next game we're looking at. It's not bad. I mean, it's a little bit of variety. So starting off with a little bit of a rough hand. The Maisha is probably the better card out of it. So we're definitely holding on to that, since I don't want to have to worry about finding it in my deck later on. That means I can just purely focus on control, which does tend to be what this deck does focus on the most. Trying to reach that win con as quickly as possible, which is why we did go for the Mecha Wing turn 2, of course, getting 2 followers on board, instantly raising Maisha's attack power by 2. And Robo Goblin, that's actually not bad. I decided to trade these in. Again, we are focusing on that control element of the deck. It can be a little rough in some matches though, because there are of course some pretty good win condition kind of cards. So I went for World Gate, threw a couple things in the deck, went face a little bit, not really too much to deal with yet. Omen of Destruction, so this is where we start running into some trouble. Omen of Destruction can really screw us over quickly, since not really the healing that's the issue, but the actual, you know, black could really just destroy us immediately. So all I can really do is try and limit that by, of course, destroying whatever I can. So now we have a Shin and a Chaos Awakens, so we don't need to use our Evo, which is good. So we can actually probably take advantage of that next turn, which should be okay. So Shin, Lawful Light, Chaos Awakens, get a nice little Evo effect, lower the cost of all our cards. It's actually a really cool effect. I'm glad I got to take advantage of it. It was something that I hadn't actually got to really play with in the past, so really good to get a test in of it. And getting that lower cost effect was great. It does mean Tech Lord actually becomes available play for next turn. Not that he's great because I've only really got Robo Goblin, but I can actually kind of, you know, work with it and go a little wider, which does set up a nice defensive play and gets, of course, more things on board that have to be cleared. So we got a 1 in 3, and that was the best hit I could ask for. Although, with of course these puppets, it wasn't really an issue for them. But at least they did waste a lot of followers, so that's a good sign for now. Although it does mean their Destruction in White is becoming very playable. Luckily though, they haven't played it yet, which does put us at an advantage, since that means Destruction in Black is not to really be expected yet. And all we can do is really hold our ground. So finally, Destruction in White gets played for 1 cost. And they can actually start just destroying things with these puppets and Joy of Destruction going full on into my ward. And even more draw power, more puppets. They're really doing an insane job here. The Destruction in Black will definitely be playable next turn. Unfortunately for us, we should be just out of range. It's really just a matter of, can we get Maisha playable? On the bright side, that was actually a really nice play. And once we had the, of course, Grimnir, not for removal, but just to set up a nice ward and, of course, force them to have to deal with it. Which, again, boosts our Maisha up. We should be very close to having Maisha in range. We should be just off. And they still didn't play Destruction in Black, which is a really good sign. It's going to give us at least one more turn to really work on this. So I believe we are just short, and it's going to be a little difficult to get Maisha over that line for 20 damage. Puppet Strings, though, is a perfect draw. That'll let us take these out really nicely. So I do expect them to play Destruction in Black now. I doubt that they would hold it back. There's really no point doing so. Possible Destruction, trying to get another Destruction in Black to play. Obviously not going to be very quick, so by the time they do, it's not really going to matter. I do need at least one turn though, so we do need to buy a little bit of time. And get as many followers destroyed as possible. Since we were still just short on the Maisha play. Probably, I think we were 1 or 2 off at that point once I counted those puppets in, so I really did just need this this puppet master to die. Since we were very close. Actually, I think we were 1 off, and then we got the puppet from the troop master, so we were pretty close. 21 damage. That's going to be enough to just win the game. So overall, this deck was a reasonable bit of fun and doesn't require too many hefty legendaries. I mean, we're running 9, which is a pretty average number of legendaries for these decks lately, but the legendaries we are running are stuff that, well, at least these two, Baphomet and Silver Beast, are the two that we don't see a lot at the moment. Tech Lord is played in pretty much any kind of mech deck, so that's not a surprise, but overall, a lot of fun. Cards that I don't usually get to play, I got to give a full-on go. Creeping Slime, I would have loved to have got to play this, unfortunately, but, I mean, at least, you know, it's in the deck, it's there. It's got a fairly decent effect overall with the Enhance, of course, evolving this follower for free, so it does work with the Evolve effects. If you guys are interested in checking this deck out, I will have a link in the description below. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time, guys, see ya.